All right, I believe we have everyone in attendance at the moment that is going to be able to show. If there are any
Shit.
candidates who arrive later, we will try and add them on and let them speak as much as possible, but I believe we will go ahead and start. So, good afternoon, citizens of San Andreas. My name is Sherry Ann Layfield. I am Secretary of State. It is my honor and pleasure to moderate this special election debate between the candidates for state representative. Though, unfortunately, not all of the candidates are able to attend tonight, we do hope that the candidates that are here tonight speak honestly and passionately. Before I begin, I wanted to take a moment to thank Public Works for all that they do for this city, and a special thanks to Phoenix for her wonderful work on this stage. It is very beautiful, and I know a lot of work went into it. As well, thank you all for being here this evening with us. So, the structure for tonight's debate will be as follows. We will start with each candidate providing a 1-minute opening statement. During this statement, we would like to ask the candidates to answer this question. Why should the citizens of San Andreas vote for you to be one of their state representatives? Following this, we have prepared a set of questions submitted by fellow citizens of the state. These questions will be asked by myself as the moderator and will be answered by each individual candidate. Each candidate will also have 30 seconds to answer the question, and once every candidate has answered, we will have 5 minutes for an open discussion between the candidates. After this, time permitting, we will allow each candidate to provide a 30-second closing statement. Candidates, I ask you to please be conscious and considerate of the time that you are taking. I will let you know if you go over the time allotted. I'll raise my arms, and I ask that you please then respectfully finish your statement so that we may move on. We do have a limited amount of time, and we want to try and hear from everyone as possible. Also, please make sure if you are speaking to speak up quite loud, as there are numerous people here, and please, I should say, while you are addressing myself and the audience, please speak up as loud as possible. And please also then be respectful while other candidates are speaking. So, to begin, we will start from my left, stage right, and go down the row as the candidates will introduce themselves and begin with their opening statements.
I assume we're starting now?
Yes, we are starting now.
Fantastic. How are we doing, everyone? My name is Jacob Wheeler, current CEO of Meriwether Security Services. I would like to say that the reason I think that I would serve to do the best for the citizens of New Alexandria, or my lord, for Los Santos, is that I stand to represent all issues, not just business owners, not just citizens, but criminal justice reform, marijuana legalization, and a leniency on gun policies. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Cherry. So Cherry asked me to do honesty and passion, and that's exactly what the fuck you're gonna get. What's up? My name's Cash. For those of you who do know me, hey. For those of you that don't, you're about to. So, yeah, I mean, my big thing is that, a question that a lot of people probably have is how the fuck is this guy running for office, and does he actually have a clean record? I'm gonna answer both of those questions, yes and yes. And if that answer surprises you, then it should just add to the notion that you don't have to fucking judge a book by its cover. So when I say that, don't fucking put down my policies because I have fucking issues I want to focus on. Social, political, corruption, crime, all that shit. So fucking Cash Keller fucks, and let's overthrow the system. Thank you.
Oh, that is terrifying.
Well, first off, I want to thank Phoenix for setting up this amazing stage. It was quite nice. I'm serious. I'm sick of the last representation for this country folk, and it makes me madder than wet head. I tell you what, with Sam Hill's going on in the city capital, you got on state rep, come up and tells us if you ain't got some shady what's for. You got some real wealthy folks down here, and they ain't happy just like progress, but we can make that progress because we know where the best meetings go on. We ain't hearing nothing but big media. They don't hold that shit. Anyway, they tell
The system.
us, you know, the rugby stick. There's the system right there for you.
Panic.
I'll tell you what.
Don't
Anyway,
panic. Everything's fine.
We
There's
work
public
on
It was just a local.
don't worry.
It was a
We
local
decided
helicopter.
to
It's
see
fine.
So no, that's no problem.
Local
And,
helicopter,
you know,
it's fine.
like he said over here, you know, you ain't judge a book by its cover. You know, we try to put all these wealth folk in here. Why don't you put somebody that actually knows what's going on with the people, down with the people, working with the people, you know? And you know, the current state reps, you ain't got one of them have to do it already. So yep, you vote for me. You know, I won't be one of the people, but if I can just come on, Tommy, talk down to me, and yeah.
Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Josh Ford. I am currently I'm currently working as a judicial circuit judge, but I'm on leave of absence to campaign for state rep for this beautiful city. So a few things that I'm interested in doing are promoting positive interactions and effective communication between citizens and government employees. I want to enable information to be streamlined between government agencies as well as citizens, so more effective, communication between both citizens, business owners, criminals, everybody involved, so they, have that way to get that information. I think promoting business growth and development by allowing for more accessible funds to businesses. The COC has done a lot of good work, and I would like to work with them to promote local businesses and allow for local businesses to have more opportunities. I would like, and I have a lot of interest in reforming the prison systems just to, make it more rehabilitating rather than sitting at a wall. I would like to do a lot of things with the prison systems to make them more effective. I would also like to promote checks and balances between the different branches by allowing, things to be investigated when they should, and having, a place where people can go to report things and they feel safe doing so. And I am a very big supporter of, government agencies as well as everybody. So thank you, and yeah.
Alrighty. First things first, thank you, Miss Phoenix, for setting all this up. Second thing, I'm here to do 3 things. Should I get elected? 1, accountability for every department, make sure that everyone's remaining above board. The last thing we need is corruption within our state. I'm not saying that there is currently, however, it doesn't need to be there, and it needs to be addressed. So ensuring that there is further accountability through the use of, departments investigating each other instead of just internal affairs. Secondly, firearms laws. I myself am very pro-firearm. Our firearm laws are a joke currently. If you didn't know, legally you can own a nuclear device in the state. That's a big problem. Maybe we should address that, among a bunch of other things. And lastly, prison reform. I myself have been to prison, whether you know that or not. Now you do. It is about punishment. It is not about reform. It needs to be about reform and rehabilitation, and provide ways for inmates to transition from prison to the real world once they're getting released.
Hi, my name is Bex Lawson. I'm a leader in private industry. I run Clout, which is a lifestyle and fashion brand, and I've also hosted events like Kraken's Cove, which was a massive reality show event. A moment to say thank you to Phoenix, who has organized the stage both for this event and for Kraken's Cove. She does a wonderful job every time. I'm running for state rep because I have already been working through private industry to improve the citizen sector of the city, to enable things, and to do things that have never been done before. Whether that's creating the first print periodical, running a $100,000 reality show event, or just otherwise reaching in and working together with fellow citizens to get things done. I have relationships with public works I treasure that I built through this, and I hope to build on that by becoming your state rep and building Los Angeles, building a Vinewood, and creating a city that feels like it's for citizens to live their lives alongside cops and criminals. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is George Paxton, and I would like to thank Phoenix, the representative Jackson Paxton, as well as the Secretary of State Layfield for organizing this event. I spent my entire career fighting for the little guy, helping other people. First as a coordinator of a nonprofit, to being a lawyer, to representing people of all walks of life, and of course, finally sitting on the appellate court here at San Andreas. I want to carry on that work, the good fight, and continue to fight for working class people in the state. People wake up, they look around, they see a lot of issues. I've been around the state, from downtown to Paleto Bay. I've heard the issues. People are struggling, and they're struggling to make ends meet, and some people are feeling like they're left behind. That's why I'm the only candidate on this stage that wants to introduce a Fair Employment Act that's going to provide transparency and fairness to workers and business owners. And it's why I want to solidify a real Bill of Rights. This is important work, and with your support, we can make real change in the government. I'm a man of my word, and I can commit to all members of the public that I will see this legislative agenda through if elected. That's why I'm here. You're never going to catch me slandering my colleagues on this stage, because we all need to work together to see some real change for the people of San Andreas. That's my focus, and that's why I want you, the voter, to seek something better. Thank you all, and remember to vote George Paxton.
Hi, everybody. I'm Castor Taylor. I'm the owner of Burger Shot. I am running for state rep in order to help improve and create transparency for business practices out there. I want to create more opportunity for individuals to be able to earn an honest living and to be able to start their own business. I also feel that it is also a really strong point to reform prison acts, and in regards to right now it is just punishment. I want to be able to make it so that those who have been sentenced to prison have the ability to add back to society, whether through community service or other means necessary, and also to provide a strong educational program for the city. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mon Nash. My day job is an ADA. The reason I'm running for state rep is through my job experience, I've witnessed a lot of holes in our legal system, and those holes need to be filled. Namely, I would say I would like to make transparency with between the cops and the criminals. I think that there's a lot of confusion that's being called corruption. And I think if there was more communication there and things were more made publicly available, there would be a lot less issues. Another reason I'm running is because I have a lot of experience with reading and writing laws. As an ADA, all you do is you read court cases. All right, you determine what is legal, what is not. And I think being able to understand legalese and translate it into, human language is a notable skill that I would love to bring to the table. Thank you.
Oh, hey there, my name's James Nark. I'm currently an active member of Public Works. I'm not up here to get elected and become some basic bureaucrat who just lives behind a desk all day. I'm going to continue being on these streets with you and just seeing what real issues the city has, and I'll be available for talking whenever needed. Now, what I'm looking to get out of here is to continue the city's support of private businesses and see whatever we can do to help support those, and also make sure that our parks and beaches are accessible to access. Thank you.
Thank you all for your opening statements and your candidacy and honesty.
I think we do.
So, to begin, our first question. If you've already pretty much said or answered this question in your opening statement, feel free to do just a brief short summary. But what, in your opinion, is the single most important challenge currently facing our state? And how do you propose to address it? We'll start in reverse order with Mr. Knock.
Oh, hey there. Well, I think that something we're really facing as members of the state is when you're driving a vehicle down the road, some people can be crazy drivers. And what we're seeing is a lot of people who are being pulled over for their vehicles. And I think something that you need to see, we need to really look into these laws and make sure that we're not giving the police the power to just pull any citizen over when their vehicle's still running, but they look a little suspicious. Thank you.
Could you repeat
Mr.
the
Nash?
question?
Oh, sure. In your opinion, what is the single most important challenge currently facing our state, and how do you propose to address it?
Okay. I think that the lack of participation in democracy in our state is the biggest issue. I think that citizens are disenfranchised, and they feel so because they have a voice that is not being heard. There's currently no system for civilians to propose new laws, or at least suggest them to state reps. I think making a system that would allow them to do that would go a long way for increasing democracy and also making fair decisions across the government.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taylor?
I appreciate it. Mine's actually quite twofold. One is the education in the city, as long with the employment rates. I feel that it is important for us as a city and as a state to make sure that we have resources out there for our community to be able to educate themselves, to get those higher paying jobs, to increase the gross product for our households, and be able to educate ourselves in skills that would help further our community.
Thank you. Mr. Paxton?
Right. I think one of the biggest issues is people just feeling plain left behind, if that's them not being able to find access to good paying jobs, are they feeling like they're constantly being victimized by crime? That's why I'm stand on the stage and I'm looking to institute a Fair Employment Act to get some basics, some absolute minimum standards for our employees and our employers, and that's why I want to develop a Bill of Rights to continue to enforce people's legal rights, individual rights, to make sure that they're respected.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson?
Hi. In my opinion, the biggest issue that we are facing right now is both simple and massive. There is a clear pattern of escalation in this city at the moment. If you follow the news, you've seen it. If you've gone shopping at Suburban on Hollick Avenue, you've probably seen it as you're being pulled into the back of a Jeep. Right now, tensions are rising. Accusations of corruption are coming out. So what I am looking at is a clear pattern of de-escalation. What are things we can do to create a safer city, a city where you can go to job interviews, go to, where you need to go, and there we can solve the problems we need to.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradshaw?
All right. Firstly, I think there are a few issues in the state that need to be addressed, but I ultimately believe that a lot of it is stemming from our prison system. At the moment, our prison system is about punishment. It doesn't matter what people tell you, it is punishment, it is not rehabilitation. I myself have spoken with a number of people whom, get involved in crime, and whilst I'm sure that they are more career criminals and wouldn't go back to a normal life, there are those people who turn to crime during, because they're in hard times. They have to do what they have to do to survive. Yeah. And what I intend to do is, through the use of the prison system, give them a means to earn skills so that when they get out of prison, they can go and find legitimate jobs and hopefully make deals with some businesses such as, Mr. Taylor's Burger Shot or wherever else, so that they can get a job and help reintegrate into society instead of turning back to crime.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
Hello. So, one of the biggest issues that I think I have seen is the, lack and sometimes ineffective communication that comes across all government agencies and citizens as a whole. A lot of times communication is given and it's not streamlined. You might hear the same thing, but it's going to be said 10 different ways because, the communication aspect of a lot of, government agencies and a lot of different, people in a whole. It's lacking in some things, and I feel like addressing this and promoting the more positive interactions and ability for communication between government agencies can allow for a lot more to be explained and can allow to a lot of more knowledgeable public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sears?
Hey, the lack of communication between all departments and civilians leads to very misdirected outcry because civilians don't know where they need to direct their problems and they have them issues that need to be addressed and the outcry needs to be heard, but at least the anger is followed by a lot of dumb ashtray, and that's actually a lot of big compost. So I want to make sure they got a lot of people dedicated to help them where they put those issues. You shouldn't just be expected to know from one person to the next whether you're supposed to be saying something. Community outreach days would be helped a lot less if this problem was solved with a lot more positions filled with that. All right?
Thank you very much. Mr. Keller?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. So fuck all of what you just heard, because I feel like everyone on this stage right now is trying to tiptoe around a big fucking bush. So I'm gonna go right through with the fucking lawnmower. Alright, the biggest problem right now in this state is that not only are we seeing injustice swept under the rug, but there's so much fucking inequity in all of our departments. None of our workers are getting paid what they want to be paid, and no one's fucking happy for it. But on top of that, no one that we actually have working in the workforce can actually be trusted. We can't even trust fucking government officials like Cassandra Cohen or whoever the fuck. We certainly can't trust arm-slinging ex-cops like that Martindale fucker. But we know the system is fucking broken. So what we need is more police accountability, briefings to the public, and for the love of fuck, increased transparency. I also think extensive screenings need to be held and become a thing, not to the point where the system itself is overburdened, but we have the chance to actually fucking rebuild from the caving in that it already did without me bringing the wrecking ball to it.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Wheeler?
So I think the biggest challenge facing Los Santos right now is trust. Trust between our civilians and members of the government and our police department. Cash said it best. There needs to be more transparency in government and its procedures, and I think a better line of communication between representatives elected by citizens and the members of the police department. Rumors and misinformation can spread like wildfire in Los Santos. We all know this, and I think a more transparent and opening governing body could certainly increase public trust and faith. Things like a monthly town hall between PD, government, and all the citizens could greatly increase the relationships between everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your answers. And now we will begin a 5-minute open discussion if you have any questions or concerns you'd like to address with each other.
Great. If it's all right, I'll go first. You mentioned increased transparency and the idea of monthly town halls, monthly check-ins. As someone who organizes private events, as someone who is aware of sort of how draining a meeting can be if it isn't done without purpose, what exactly do you plan to sort of increase communication and transparency? How do you ensure people are communicating well with one another? How do you make sure that, this important information the public needs isn't drowned out in endless memos and pamphlets and, too many cooks in the kitchen?
It's about catering the discussion. I assume it was directed directly at me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about tailoring the conversation and making sure that we're bringing pertinent information to these discussions. We shouldn't be having a monthly town hall between government, citizens, and police department to simply pass around memos and discuss internal policies. These monthly town halls are specifically for the citizens. If they have things they want to bring up and address, they should be there, and it is there for them to take that public forum, bring their questions to the members of the government and the police department, who can then come back the following month and bring them answers and bring them resolutions, bring them we're not going to be there to read memos and let them know that the police just ordered a new cruiser. We're there to talk about what the citizens want to talk about and bring their issues directly to the people that they've elected to run the government and run this city.
Yeah, I'd like to also add to that, if I may.
Of course.
Yeah, so I don't think it should be fucking draining for the police and all the accountable departments that need to tell people what they need to hear. I don't think at all that should be draining or fucking anything other than what is required and necessary for the people to understand what they need to know. Because if we're all complaining about misinformation, lack of communication, and fucking problems, then prolonging the situation by saying, oh, this is draining and something that we can't allow because it's just simply not going to happen is not an acceptable fucking answer. No, thank you.
Mr. Keller, I'm sorry, you misunderstand. When I say, the meetings are draining, I don't mean we shouldn't have them happen. What I mean is they need to be planned well. We need to make sure that government bodies aren't able to choke up lines of communication by filing those memos. We need to make sure that these meetings are for transparency. If you want this, we can't just make another body to discuss this in another series of meetings and another set of memos. We need to cut to the core of the problem and make sure that the transparency itself is carefully planned and executed to make sure it's doing the job that we set out to do.
Agreed, and fuck bureaucracy, because it's only adding to the problem.
Miss Lawson, I have a question for you.
Of course.
Could you give me an example of what kind of transparency you'd like to see?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Recently, I got the keys to my business from the Chamber of Commerce, for which I was very pleased. I think the addition of businesses and paychecks is a fantastic boon to the city, and I think once everyone has it, once it has rolled out appropriately, I think it's going to transform Los Santos. But a lot of the business owners I spoke to said, I don't know when mine is coming in. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months. They said, I don't mind waiting. I don't even mind if they tell me we're doing it like 2 at a time in very small pockets. I just want to know. I think the public often feels restless because they feel like they're on the outside of a project waiting for updates, and I don't think that is the fault of Public Works or the Chamber of Commerce. What I would suggest is having liaisons, people who are especially tasked with communicating this information so that our government agents can do the work that they are working so hard on, and the public can still remain informed and follow that frustration.
Right, Mr. Bradstock, something for you if you have a second.
Yeah, of course.
Right. I was listening to your statement there about the most important issue, and I know that you've been in prison yourself. But considering that you looked at that's really the main issue facing the people, is everybody else left behind? You know what I mean? Considering the majority of people aren't going to prison.
So here's the thing. The reason why I'm saying that the prison system is the core issue. Yeah. People get in hard times. They can, they may turn to a life of crime to pay for, their family or whatever. They get arrested. Firstly, the issue of them having committed the crime, that affects people. There isn't anything, there's no such thing as a victimless crime. Anyways, they get arrested, they go to prison. Yeah, they don't learn any skills while in prison. Trust me, you don't. It's punishment, punishment, punishment. That is all it is. You get out, you've been fucked over by the system, you're not happy, yeah? You have 2 options now. You have the easy way, go back to a life of crime and continue hurting people and continue going back to prison, or you can try and get a job, which most businesses in the state, quite frankly, don't want people who have been convicted of crimes. Yeah. So that is the issue present, and I think if we address the issue of the prisons and make them more to reform and rehabilitation, then that will help to deal with at least repeating criminals. Obviously, there are going to be career criminals. That's something that you can't really help with that. But people who turn to crime because they are down on their luck should not be brutally punished over and over again and be forced into a cycle. They should have a way out. And that's what I feel is a major issue that will overall benefit us all.
Can I add on here to this? I think that...
I will allow just another minute or two, but we must move on after that.
Okay. I think that the main issue here we're talking about is the recidivism rate. Those are like repeat offenders, people who do crimes and go back over and over and over. I've talked to a lot of criminals, and their main complaint is with the expungement system. If we were to make expungement easier for criminals that actually want to have a better life and work in real jobs, I think that's the bigger issue than trying to reform the prison system.
My view on it is if you give them the skills to assist them in rebuilding their lives before them clearing their name, obviously, making that system easier is a benefit. But I feel it's more pertinent to give them the appropriate skills to support themselves before giving them easy access to clear their records. Now, of course, clearing their records is, definitely should be addressed, but I think skills and the support to have them rebuild their lives is more pertinent than,
I agree with it. I do think that we should aim for a more rehabilitation versus incarceration system, but I do think expungement would help that.
Right. I just wonder, the whole question was about if average people are getting left behind, and I think the question's still left unanswered. I understand the views on crime and punishment, I do, but the vast majority of people in the state here, they're not going to jail. And if we're only going to focus on prison, we're going to leave a lot of people behind. And I think that's how they've been feeling.
I think the issue is, while reforming the prison itself may not affect everyone directly, the lower number of repeat offenders that will be present afterwards will overall benefit everyone.
Don't just leave one group behind because you don't think they're as big of a concern to you.
I'm not leaving
what I
anyone
said at all.
behind.
Here's what concerns me about this conversation, and I would like to step in and just say this. What concerns me is that this city is an ecosystem, and I think as we talk about this, we forget, we'll acknowledge that there will always be career criminals. We make sure to thank our police, but we don't pay attention to the massive bottom of the pyramid that is under assault and feels left in the dark. The fact that we have businesses abandoning their commercial premises because they're being taken hostage too often, that is a problem that is so urgent, so immediate, and eclipses the small concerns about expungement versus and rehabilitation. We need a more urgent solution at the source of the problem.
That we need to have cops stop turning blind eyes.
Thank you. I really appreciate all this debate, and I'm more than happy to maybe revisit this at the end, but I do have a couple more questions I'd like to get through. So we are going to be moving on to the second question. Again, please keep this in mind. We will try and revisit at the very end to rediscuss some of this. I want to make sure that everything that you would like to say, you can say. So our second question, and we'll begin sit side with Mr. Wheeler this time. If you are unsuccessful in your bid to become a state representative, in what ways will you continue to try to make San Andreas a better place?
Should I not be elected state representative, I would continue to operate in my capacity as I have as a business owner and try to lobby the state representatives that are able to, fortunate enough to win the election, for better policies for the citizens. Like I said, I believe there should be more transparency and communication between the citizens and government, and hopefully, should the new governing body look to instill that, that line of communication should be there for me as a citizen, and I will just continue to bring my suggestions to the table and let the representatives do what they do best.
Thank you very much. Mr. Keller?
Thanks, Cherry. So yeah, the thing I like about being Cash Keller so fucking much is that regardless of whether people vote for me or not, I simply do not give a fuck. Which means that I've been so proud to stand here right now advocating for the same principles that I've been advocating for my entire 26 years of life. And I may be fucking young. People may consider me inexperienced on a governmental level, but that doesn't change the fact that I've got passion and drive, and I will continue to lobby for what I feel is fucking right. As I'm saying it here, I'll do it even if I lose.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sears?
Yeah, but if I don't get accepted, it ain't gonna change me much any more than I already was. You know, I was already there, I was already working, so I'm gonna go back to working down up in Gracie down there. You know, I've had you guys fish off the great bacon, brown eggs, egg feed pigs, and some of the brown eggs, you know, from them happy chickens up there, potatoes and onions, things and produce for your stores and your restaurants and all like that, like I always been doing. I'm gonna keep my values and my family's values and try to be hiring people that I can, you know, maybe have career records and get them up there to work for me. But, you know, it ain't gonna affect me none. I ain't gonna go cry in the corner. I'm gonna put my letters and stuff to the reps that do to get accepted, you know, whoever they be, and be like, you know, you need to fucking listen to our complaints. We're gonna be up at your door every day in the city hall, just knocking your door down every day, and they ain't gonna have a choice but to listen to us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sears. Mr. Ford?
I'll just continue to work, you know, in my career passion, and I will make sure that, you know, justice is served, and I will make sure that I am still listening to people, and I will make sure that I try to, you know, communicate with the state reps, lobby bills, and, you know, work together as a team. You know, even if I'm not elected, that doesn't mean I still don't have a voice. Everybody has a voice. Every citizen has a voice. I feel like that can be heard, you know, even if you're not elected as a state rep. So, you know, I'll just continue working as I was, and I'll just, you know, continue to lobby, and, you know, lobby for citizens' rights.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradstock?
Thank you very much. Firstly, you know, if I don't get elected, firearm reform is a big thing. You know, I've already got a large bill written up, which State Representative Jackson already has a draft of. I believe he's reading through it. Secondly, as I mentioned before, prison reform is a big thing for me. You know, I have spent time in there. It is an issue. It needs to be addressed. You know, regardless of how far you agree as to whether or not it is the most important issue, it is still a big issue. We should not be actively punishing people and trying to keep them in a loop of prison, crime. We need to help them get back on their feet and establish a normal and, you know, regular lifestyle that's healthy for them and their fellow citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Bradstock. Ms. Lawson?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure thing. If you are unsuccessful in your bid to become a state representative, in what ways will you continue to try to make San Andreas a better place?
I think the answer to that is easy, because if you go to a printer, you can see the first issue of Clout magazine. You know, you can see the events I already hold, like Kraken's Cove. I already have the skills, the ability, and the vision to run my private enterprise and push the San Andreas forward that way. And if I don't make state rep, that's what I'll keep doing. But that being said, if I hypothetically do make state rep, my door will be open for all the colleagues here saying that they'd be interested in talking.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paxton?
Right. You know what? If I don't win, I'm still gonna wake up the next morning, roll out of bed, pour myself a cup of coffee, and keep doing what I've been doing my entire life, my entire career, which is helping people, uplifting the downtrodden, and continuing my path forward in many different ways, including supporting people and working with the new government to get some real change done, because I think that cooperation is the most important thing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taylor?
I appreciate it. Well, first off, if not elected state rep, I still appreciate the opportunity that it's given to be able to be up here today with all these fine ladies and gentlemen up here. They're all very passionate about what we are standing up here for. I would go back to working at Burger Shot, and since we are about to do our grand opening, to go ahead and increase employment out there, provide job opportunities for the average citizen to be able to support their families. And from there, I would like to be able to lobby to build a Department of Education to help build skills for individuals in the community who seek to learn technical skills to be able to get those jobs. I feel like education is first and foremost the most important thing out here to be able to diagnose any issues.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nash?
There's 4 things I like to focus on if I'm not elected here. Again, I'm an ADA by day. I would still continue doing that. I love my job. But I'd also like to start lobbying for a few issues that I find really important to me. And those would be making PD reports that are over 30 days old publicly available. I think, that we shouldn't hide that information from anyone. You can't press charges on a case that's over 30 days old. I'd also lobby to increase access to PD equipment and vehicles. I know there's sometimes a shortage there. I'd also lobby for increasing medical pay and also access to equipment for them. It's a big issue when I was talking to a lot of doctors and nurses and EMS. They're underpaid and they're not loving it. And also, finally, the last thing I'd like to lobby for is making red lights into stop signs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Na?
Either way, so I think if I didn't get elected, I'd make sure to put time into the charity organization I works with that helps get new people accustomed to the city and sort of figure out how things work. And also continue with our role in public works, including supporting any renovations projects and also magazines such as Lawson uses, and helping get that in the city so people keep having the amazing stuff that they're starting to experience.
All right, well, thank you very much. We will now begin our 5-minute open discussion.
I'd like to go first, if that's all right. Mr. Keller, I think it's been fair to say you're
What's going on, Bex?
The most outspoken and I would say radical of the people on the stage.
Fuck yeah, why not?
If you were elected and you could choose who you would like to serve alongside you in the 2 vacant seats, I'm curious, who would you pick?
Frankly, I'm gonna let the fucking people choose that. That's not really my place to pick or choose whoever works with me. I'm just happy to work with whoever isn't a fucking cog in the machine.
I have a question for candidate Bradstock, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
What did you do prior to your time as an EMT and running for government?
Prior to, being an EMT, I was, working alongside my family in the arms industry, helping to provide firearms to British and American troops to help keep them safe.
And do you not see that as a conflict of interest that you're now lobbying for the legalization of Class 2 firearms?
Not really. At the end of the day, I keep business and politics separate. I'm not distributing firearms in the state. At the end of the day.
Well, you're not now because it's illegal. But should you have your way, you would be able to, would you not?
Primarily,
that's
yes.
Straying
However,
a little bit farther than the question in general.
But regardless.
Wouldn't he just be lobbying for it if he wanted to, and if he didn't want to, not? There's a difference between civilians having it and military having it.
Yeah,
I don't see the problem with that. And what he could do and wouldn't do and what the laws aren't don't really matter to this particular situation.
So there's a difference between legalizing Class 2 firearms, which, firstly, the whole class definition within our state is kind of a joke. That needs to be brought up with federal standards. So, what we currently define as Class 2s should be considered Class 3s. But regardless, there's a difference between legalizing those firearms and selling them.
Oh, I'm aware. Just curious.
So, while they may be legal, potentially, no, I'm not necessarily going to be selling them. Although I don't feel that we should legalize them because that's a whole other issue.
I have a quick yes or no question to all of the candidates, whoever chooses to answer it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Do you support large corporations in whole?
I'm wearing a shirt, aren't I?
What?
Yes, can't say no to that.
Yes, I'll personally speak on this, Josh Ford. I do personally support large corporations, just to make sure, large corporations can be good because they, do have opportunities to employ people, provide jobs, and it can be a large part of the economic sector that people can actually, work for, and, it provides a lot of business opportunities. But, a monopolization and a monopoly is something else that's different than just a large corporation, which I do not support.
And when you allow those large corporations to grow, you'd admit that they probably have an ability to take advantage of their employees because they have so many, and so many looking for work, especially when they're the most desperate, no?
That can happen, yes.
That can happen with small businesses too, though.
Of course, I think it can happen to multiple businesses. It really, at the end of the day, it does determine, it does rely on the facts of how the business, the core and how the board of directors of that business is running. And I think it can happen to, any business of any size.
If I may jump off, Mr. Ford, there.
Go ahead.
I think as a person, we all support large corporations to some degree. Like, if you watch a Marvel movie, you support large corporations. But in my role as a candidate, I would have to say I don't support large corporations. I think that right now, we need the government to have an active role. We need to have small businesses get a hand. We need to make sure that corruption within businesses is monitored.
Yeah, Candidate Lawson, can I just ask you one question?
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying that you don't support large corporations, can I ask why you support a large clout magazine that you've created, but also run a 6-figure reality show to decide whether businesses get money that they need?
That's a great question. Thank you. What's important to know about Clout, Kraken's Cove, and that all of the things I run in the city is that they are run straight out of my account. They are paid from the Bank of Becks. They are, in effect, redistribution of wealth. When I came into the city, because of my art business, I was able to raise $300,000 in about 30 days. And immediately I looked at that number in my account and it made me sick. I thought, what good is that doing in there? I saw people on the street struggling. This was before the business system. You saw taxi drivers, like the ones Tony Moretti employs, struggling. And I said, this makes me sick. So I started opening events, open to the public, no door charge, cultural events like art museums, Clout, which supports local artists and supports queer artists. And none of them are large corporations.
So if I may real quickly, if you don't support exactly large corporations, one of your goals is to build Vinewood. How do you think that, not allowing big corporations specifically, how do you think you're going to be able to build Vinewood, which is one of, has a lot of large corporations, that would, specifically want to take place in there? How do you think you could combat that with your ideas of building Vinewood?
I think right now we already have an amazing core of passionate Vinewood entrepreneurs in this city. Men like Antonio Reyes, the owner of the Shuffle nightclub, and the Performer Fingers. We have King Racino, who's looking at opening his own comedy and karaoke club. I know Mr. Jackson has worked on opening nightclubs. There is no shortage of people in this city who are yearning to build a business, build a Vinewood. And what they need at this point is support. They need infrastructure. We'll worry about large corporations and their effects once we have the foundation built, because right now, if you want to work in the tourism industry, acting, anything like that, you're kind of in a pickle.
And that foundation is right in the Fair Employment Act that me, as the only candidate on this stage, has brought forward real change that I want to make for working class people and businesses, and I'm prepared to get that done.
I just don't see, if we have all these corporations already coming up and these businesses taking care of themselves, why we need to tell them how and why from the government perspective. It's the people's fucking operations, not ours.
Vinewood needs no infrastructure support. If you want to look to support or build anywhere, you should look to our outer counties,
or the South Side.
I'm going to stop y'all here because this can go on for a while. We can again revisit this if we'd like, or have a secondary debate specifically about this, but we do need to move on to other questions. So I do appreciate and I love, again, the passion and the honesty, but we'll save it for the very end. Now that we are well past our 5 minutes. So, starting from Mr. Knock for the next question. True or not, there have been constant allegations of corruption levied at multiple departments in San Andreas. What does corruption mean to you, and how do you plan to locate and combat it?
Thank you for the question. I think there's definitely been a lot of these complaints, especially that article that just came out a couple of days ago, and especially with an active case going on. I'm not going to go into that. I think that the first thing we need to look at is visibility, and I know other people have said it here, but if you get transparency in the system, especially on reports that are being filed, you're going to see responsibility on the part of the people in the city, including the government, to solving these problems, which includes corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nash.
I would like to say that, first of all, we need to define what corruption is legally, and we need to think of punishments that would fit that definition. If we're finding definition, or if we're seeing corruption and we're not able to actually pinpoint it down, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to actually define it. We have to make sure that the punishments fit the bill, fit the crime, as it were. and I don't think that's being done right now. I would say that we'd have to maybe make punishments for corruption a lot worse than they are.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Mr. Taylor.
I appreciate the opportunity. So for me, I feel like it's really important to have a strong audit process that's nonpartisan to the government itself, that's separated from it, to be able to go through books to ensure that nobody is cooking books or to overstepping any of their powers of responsibility.
Thank you. Mr. Paxton.
I'm sorry, is there any way you could just repeat the question? I just want to make sure I answer it in its entirety.
Of course, of course. So, whether true or not, there have been constant allegations of corruption levied at multiple departments in San Andreas. But what does corruption mean to you, and how do you plan to locate and combat it?
Right. I think corruption to me is simply using your office for your own personal gain. And you know what? It's a very pressing issue right now. There's lots of allegations that go around that we're not going to need to get into here. But my plan for corruption is continuing to work with the departments, the government agencies, creating oversight committees where it's feasible, and working to root out the corruption before it can, take massive hold and really negatively impact the lives of working class people.
Thank you very much. Miss Lawson.
For me, corruption is much like I know it when I see it. It's something that when a officer of the public acts against the interest of the public, against the people that they are meant to serve, and instead enrich themselves or their friends or their family. And I think the first thing to do when it comes to combating corruption is see how much of this is corruption and how much of this is just, misfiles, miscommunications, failures for agencies to communicate with each other. Once we have that established, then I do think solving corruption and hunting down people who are acting in bad faith does become critical.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradstock.
Firstly, I want to start this off with, at the end of the day, no matter what we try and do, there is always going to be corruption. It is inherently human nature that people are going to want to benefit themselves. I believe corruption, as it stands from, what we're looking at here, will be someone using their position and the power that comes with it to gain themselves an unethical advantage, whether that be through money or, their own political gains, things like that. Primarily, I think the issue lies with identifying these people and dealing with them, which I feel can be assisted by having external departments investigate. So let's say, for example, if there is an allegation of corruption within LSPD, then the investigation into that would be handed to BCSO, or in a massive and potentially worst case scenario, a federal department such as the FBI. Because I have a feeling people are less inclined to do such things if they are being monitored externally.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ford?
Hello. So personally, in my personal opinion, corruption is, whenever a person uses their officer position within any type of work, uses that for an unethical gain that can gain them something that they should not have, if they weren't because of that position. So a few ways that I think you can combat corruption is to promote transparency and, create these oversight committees, whether it be civilian or, statewide. They're with more eyes on things, it literally, quite definitely, makes people not, take those decisions whenever they know that things are being audited and regularly checked. But, whenever you submit that report, it's not always that people look over it. And, I think creating these civilian oversight committees and such can be, can be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. C. Serious.
Well, first of all, you need to do some better training with them officers. They get that good training, and then they get this applies to any department, right? EMA, doctor, truck cop, ADA, whatever, DA. Anyway, when they do the cadet stuff, then they let out on the streets, and as they out on the streets, they start doing whatever they want, and then stuff from the sides gets on them. But I would say this, right? They got a lot of ways to do IA reports on people like officers, though, through legal means, for people that got the issues. And they've been working. People using them and don't understand they ain't above the law because they ain't been using it. But we got to inform people better know how they can do it so that they know who to go to. Like with how I said about business meetings, we need community interaction days with the officers and stuff. And the people who handle the IA need to get to the PR people and do more PR to the people for the people. Corruption is a hard thing to deal with because, like, with the power comes corruption, with money comes corruption, right? Anyone can be corrupt, but it's like with rot in the fields. Parasitic infestation can, spread, and you got to isolate and spray it down. Make an example to corrupt and give them the punishment they didn't do something just illegal because they betrayed the people who trusted them for their position. You got people like that last guy, and he had done nothing in the street, makes people question, everything. And then you got because they tried, fellow officers are going to see these issues at first, and they know going before the public does. So they know what they look like. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't know what time of thing.
Sorry, you're fine. Thank you, Mr. Sirius. We'll get right back to, especially during the open discussion. I'm sure you'll be able to very much continue. Mr. Keller?
Yeah, what that other guy said. Yeah, I want to make one declaration today, and I want it to be very fucking clear. Without a single fucking doubt today, there is corruption in this state. I feel it in my bones, and I know that everyone in the audience feels it fucking too, because we can smell the stink that's been building up across the government agents and the fucking news media. But it's hiding beneath the shadows like people hide their porn in different computer folders. But the thing about porn on computers is, eventually, that amount of shit stacks up. And eventually, it's so suspicious to someone that looks at your computer, and it's prone to inspection. So that's where we are right now. Because corruption is anything that cops are doing on their job that violates the so-called rights that the people are entitled to. Because if we can't trust our own fucking police force and our own government, what's the fucking point? That's why I'm so aggressive when I say that we need angry reform. What it means is I'm not afraid to hold articles of impeachment over a motherfucker's head, and I'm certainly far from afraid to tear down institutions and traditions that propagate the most spineless and lizard people of them all. That's intentionally vague because I, like the rest of everyone here, and the rest of the masses, know nothing until I can actually work to get into power. I'm happy to be nothing short of fucking transparent and forthright with all the shit I do, but that comes when you fucking vote for me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keller. Mr. Wheeler?
I can't say for certain there's corruption in the government or the police department. Do I think there is? Maybe, but we have no proof of it. Most of the cries of corruption I've seen simply fall on Twitter. And if you're bringing corruption to Twitter, you're bringing it to deaf ears, let's be honest. If you, as a citizen, feel as though you've been done wrong by the police or the government, you need to bring it to the proper channels. If you're bringing it to if you feel as though the police department have done you wrong, we probably should have voted differently when the police department asked us to vote on the concept of body cams. If our police department wore departmental issue body cams, that would be a matter of trust between everybody. We'd have less false accusations of corruption, and the people that are actually corrupt would be brought to justice and into the light. It's the shopping cart theory. If you don't put the shopping cart away when no one's looking, are you basically doing right when no one's around to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will begin the 5-minute open discussion, and I will remind you, please keep this open discussion about the question that was just asked.
I got a question for Ms. Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
So, you said you'll know it when you see it when it comes to corruption.
Mm-hmm.
How would you write that into a law?
Well, I think that depends. Like I said, before we would write any laws, we would need to assess the situation. When I say I know it when I see it, it's a matter of there are certain things that someone does that are so galling, so clearly corrupt, such as, booking a flight to Cayo Perico with their wife on the public dime. Those acts become flagrant enough that if we see them, if we clear away the poor communication, if we clear away the bureaucracy, the red tape, I think what is corruption and what is actual just ill thought out plans or poor infrastructure will become much more clear. Once we identify it, then I would have to look at legislation because it's impossible to write legislation for a situation I haven't surveyed.
So, Mr. Wheeler, I have a question for you. So, did you state that you haven't seen anything, regarding corruption within the government?
Personally, with my own two eyes, I can't say that I have. Do I feel as though it's there? And yes. I assume you have a follow-up question?
No, I was just wondering because you said that you haven't, personally seen it. I was just wondering if, you have, had any, speculations or anything like that.
I certainly do have speculations.
All right.
Mr. Wheeler, if I may, one thing that concerns me is you said, if you have concerns of corruption, bring it to the proper authorities, the proper officials, not Twitter. But clearly, if people are worried about corruption, they don't feel that going to the cops or going to a public official would help. I'm curious sort of how you expect people who don't trust the government to report government corruption to the government.
If you have an issue with the government, there is more. The government is not some all-omniscient body of people that just seeks to oversee the entire city. If you have an issue with a specific politician or government official and you have proof of this corruption, I see no reason to sit on your laurels simply because of you feel as though you're going to fall on deaf ears. Bringing it to Twitter does absolutely nothing but incite public opinion in falsities or misinformation of actual proof. You don't have, as you've mentioned and as other candidates have mentioned, we and I have even mentioned as well, we do need town halls. We need monthly discussions and debates for people to bring these things out into the public. You go behind closed doors and bring accusations, sure, they may not go anywhere. But if you bring them out into the open, then we will be done. They will be dealt in just.
But you acknowledge that a government is a system, right? Even if you don't agree that there is...
It's a system with checks and balances for a reason.
Excuse me, I'm not finished speaking. Even if you say, I am not ready to say there's corruption in government today, you have to acknowledge that the government is a system. It can propagate policies of corruption, and it is possible for leaders to create a system without feedback. And what we need to do is build trust with individuals in that vote. I feel like telling them, going to Twitter is a waste of your energy. To me, I see people asking for help.
It's not a matter of if we can trust them, and it's not a matter of Twitter or any other fuckery on social media, because we've already seen it firsthand. One of our assistant district attorneys that one of our candidates up on this stage worked with was just found with over 200 ounces of fucking marijuana. Not only that, but we're fucking finding that cops are leaving the force and selling those weapons into the arms trade. If that doesn't highlight the fucking fact that we have a problem in the system and people are outright denying corruption, then there's a fucking problem with the people on this stage too.
How do you plan to fix it there, Cash? Because all I've been seeing is overthrow the government. That's what you're saying. So tell us.
You guys keep talking about the government, but you keep saying the government. Every single faction got their own authority and their own directive. So why do you keep saying the government?
Because it is the entire government. It's a fuck up in one branch and it's a fuck up in another branch. Look over at the fucking justice system where we have an assistant district attorney who is clearly corrupt and has been taken from her job, as she should be. But we have people fucking covering up for that and defending those actions. Not just that, but we have fucking chiefs of police and fucking sheriffs all across this state in the executive branch that are enforcing these laws, but not actually holding themselves to the same standard. It's a problem everywhere.
Oh, Cash, I got a counterpoint for you. She did plead not guilty to all the charges. And, usually in sane societies, you're not guilty until proven innocent. She is going to trial. I don't think it's fair to say she's guilty already.
Perfectly fine. She was found with that. And for right now, as I have free fucking speech, I will believe what I want to believe, just as you're entitled to believe what you believe. But we're trusting in this court system, and it's already been demonstrated that it's not fucking working properly, because the very person that was in that system has already been ousted and has a trial coming up right now. How can we guarantee that everyone in that system is trustworthy to do their job on delivering justice?
Also, if I may, regarding the point of the rogue police officer who stole weapons and brought them to the street, I live in the South Side. I don't know where any of you candidates live. I personally watched the entirety of the police force out there looking for Officer Martindale. You could say it's corruption, but that corruption, in my opinion, ends at one officer. And the rest of the force did what they needed to do to resolve that issue in kind.
I will stop you right. Apologies. I will stop you right there. We've hit our 5-minute mark and then some. Again, we can revisit this at the very end if there's enough time, but I would like to get to the next question. So starting with Mr. Wheeler. Next question, coincidentally, due to ongoing gun violence in the state, what measures would you support in order to curb this violence?
Now, first off, I'd like to state I fully support and agree with the Second Amendment. I support everyone's rights to keep and bear arms, but we have a serious issue of gun violence in the city. I don't think anyone here on this stage or in the audience can deny that. We have a current policy that if you lose your driver's license, you can't get it back without taking a driver's retraining course. I think it's absolutely laughable and asinine that with the resources at our disposal, we do not make repeat violent offenders who have lost their weapons licenses take a firearms retraining and safety course. I think that should be instilled across the board as a requirement before you can get your license back, especially if you've lost it more than 3 times.
All right, thank you. Mr. Keller?
I grew up with a couple friends who like to shoot guns, and trust me, if we weren't in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, they probably would have accidentally killed someone, or I wouldn't even be on the stage today. People are still entitled to buy and whatever the fuck they want within reason. I'm happy to let people own and have guns, and I'm happy to have that be taken away under the current system, if that is what is warranted. But I feel that there should always be a chance to appeal that, to work on someone's reformation and rehabilitation, especially after they've already gone through the proper procedures to be able to reform themselves. I think that the more this continues, we're going to see it rooted out.
Thank you. Mr. Serious?
Well, yeah, guns, that's American, right? You gotta have guns, I gotta have guns, I gotta shoot them hogs, So, guns good, but you got people doing fucking crime with the guns, and then they not making sure that they get it taken away and their license taken away, make it more harder for them to get a hold of new guns. Because what's the point of having a gun license if you're gonna go out and go to another gun from down south side? Like, I'm gonna go down there and be like, hey, I have a gun. Hell yeah, here's fucking 50 guns. So then they go right back out. So yeah, if it shouldn't be, if they do multiple crimes, felony crimes with guns, then they need increased punishment each time, longer increased stay for those. And you done here?
Sorry, it's just you. I mean, you can finish your thought.
No, I'm done. My thoughts are gone.
All right. Well, thank you. Mr. Ford.
So here's the thing. In my personal opinion, gun violence is very bad. And as everybody would say, here it is happening. But here's the thing. Regardless if we try to take away their license after they're a repeat offender or not, they're going to find a way to get a gun. It's something that's not going to be figured out by, revocating and, changing the way gun licensing works. The way it's going to change is the rehabilitation and the way that it is changed. Like, the way that their minds are thought and whenever they actually go to prison, which, a lot of people have stated tonight that they think the prison system needs reformation and needs a lot more rehabilitation, and I agree with that. And I think you're going to find a gun if you want to find a gun, but it's the rehabilitation that's going to make you not go out there and do it again. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradstop.
Yeah. Now, as Candidate Ford said, yes, if you want to get a hold of your gun, no matter where it is you are, no matter what licensing status, you can get a hold of one. It's I'm sure there are many ways to get them illegally. Now, the way I intend to deal with this, and again, this is in the bill I mentioned earlier, that Representative Jackson has a draft of, I feel that we need to be training people who have gun licenses. If you go and get a driver's license, you do a driver's test. You need to pass it in order to get, to be able to legally drive a car. Why is that not the same thing with guns? We have people who are running around armed, legally, mind, but they have no clue how to operate those firearms. They are more of a danger to themselves and the general public than they are to whomever they're defending themselves from. So I feel that in providing appropriate training that is mandatory for those people to complete, in the event that criminals decide that they want to go and commit a crime, having trained and armed civilians is likely to be a deterrent. And I feel at least, until LSPD or BCSO can arrive, it will provide, more peace of mind.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson?
I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I've actually bought 3 guns for self-defense, but I've never fired a shot. Because the guns keep getting stolen off me if I'm walking down the street at night. Right now, the gun violence in this city is a symptom. The guns are a tool, and we need to look at why they're being used and how to fix the problem that is making that necessary for people to feel like we need to do that. We've talked a lot about businesses tonight. I'd like to mention a nonprofit in the city, the Love Wins Shelter. And I feel like if we find programs like that shelter run by Dr. James Wilson, if we support communities, maybe we create fewer instances where people feel like they need a gun to get their way or get around the city.
Thank you. Mr. Paxton?
Right. Violence is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in the city. Everybody that I talk to from downtown to Paleto Bay, everybody's getting hurt. Everybody's affected. If it's not you directly, it's your family members. We need to continue to work with our partners in law enforcement and find these people responsible for committing these massive acts of violence and prosecute them. They need to get behind bars. There's no way that we should be having these repeat offenders out there. Continually hurting people, killing people, things of that nature. We need to continue to criminalize Class 2 weapons, whose, the massive amount of guns that can take so much life in such little time, and we need to protect people's rights to live.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
As an individual who isn't extremely for guns, I still honor and respect the individual's rights to have one for self-defense and for hunting. Actually, to be honest, the other day I was quite kind of actually appalled by how easy it is to come by those licenses. There is no sense of verification of education or mental well-being when providing somebody with a license to get a weapons license or a hunting license. In fact, the other day I went down to the office and I was able to receive a hunting license in under 30 seconds flat. That's appalling. Should be able to provide education for people to learn how to use their weapons properly, safely, and to teach self-defense.
Thank you. Mr. Nash?
Here's a crazy idea. What if, so most crimes that are committed with guns are using illegal guns, right? Or stolen guns. What if we created a system that would allow people to turn in those stolen guns and receive maybe a small stipend back? They turn the guns into the government, and that would like disincentivize the black market around illegal guns. I think this whole issue revolves around the black market of illegal guns, and if we're trying to stop that or curb that, we have to put our foot down on that market, like on its neck, and say, okay, we can compete with that as the government.
Thank you. Mr. Knock?
Oh, hey there. Gun violence is a direct offshoot of struggling to find income. Okay, we need to create engaging careers that make people who want to go to work instead of trying to take the income from their neighborhood. Supporting continuous private and public employment is the only way we're going to be able to prevent people from needing to use their guns in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we will open the floor to the open discussion. Again, I remind you, please keep it to this topic.
Right, this is a question for Mr. Nash. I noticed there that you were talking about black market weapons and sort of a buyback program, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, would that almost not incentivize people to get their hands on stolen weapons just so they could get some money back from the government?
What? I mean, at least those guns wouldn't be used in crimes.
I would like to bring it up to Nash as well. It seems like everyone in the parking lot just said their cars broken into and shit stolen. So, like, wouldn't now that guy that just stole all our shit go right over to the PD and be like, hey, I got 432 guns to turn in, please?
I mean, if the point is to get guns off the street, I mean, is that not an issue?
So, the issue I foresee with that is, well, yes, you'll be taking the guns off the street, you'll be incentivizing the theft of those firearms.
Well, that's where we have to
get
price
a monetary value, because what's going to happen? Yeah, this is what I foresee. That law gets passed. Criminals go around, steal a bunch of guns, turn them in, get paid. The people who just had their guns stolen by that criminal have to go and buy a new gun and report it stolen, which is a whole process and costs money. That criminal has not only made money off of doing what they've done through technically legal means, if you ignore the robbery part of it, and people are suffering for it.
Actually, better yet, what if I took the gun? Like, let's say we take the gun, we kill the guy that we steal the gun from, and then we turn it back in. So we get to kill them and get money for the gun.
I mean, I think
I don't think that's how it played out.
The killing of people.
I think
Okay,
at this
fuck
point
that.
we're getting incredibly hyper-focused on this one specific agenda idea. But, like, I think, you know, positive incentive is a powerful idea for people. I do think incredibly valid concerns have been raised about buyback programs. But surely we can think about other positive incentives. You know, how do we get people to live a life where they don't feel like they need to hold a gun in their lap while they drive to a postal or
Yeah, that's what I was
steal
getting
guns?
I have the exact answer to that fucking question.
I'd love to
I
hear
want to
it.
make this declaration right here that I want to donate a portion of my campaign donations that I've already received, as I've already tried to go to the hospital to donate, but also my soon-to-be governmental salary towards the workers, both blue and white collar, so that they're fucking amply rewarded. Because most blue-collar fucks get used and abused, and they turn to that crime. It won't be a lot because I know I just can't get much, but I'm trying to make fucking sure that everyone can at least eat a meal. Give them some fucking bread. Because I know for a fact that it's hard to just regulate the influx of money into the government, to let people like doctors, public works, etc. get a raise, because of all these large corporations making things so fucking expensive. But I want to contribute what I can. And fucking speaking of everybody eating, I've already spent several $1,000s not only to provide cheaper or even free alcohol at the Blackwood Saloon in Toledo for the past 5 days, but I also put money from a few days ago until right now into making sure that everyone who goes to Ari's Deli for the next couple days can actually eat for fucking free. So that
But what
homeless
does it
people
have to
don't
do
need to
with
worry about
guns?
their next
If I
meal. Because when they have food and when they don't have things that they need to worry about buying so fucking much, they're gonna stop turning to robbing people and have those situations go wrong to the point where guns need to be fired.
Thank
Fuck
you,
that.
Mr. Keller.
That's
That's,
You're here.
inequity.
Mr.
like to
Keller, I
pivot.
think you expanded on my point nicely. Thank you.
I'd like to pivot back to guns really quick, but also piggyback off what Candidate Keller said, and that, as I mentioned, I feel as though there should be increased penalties for repeat offenders who've had their licenses taken away more than once, twice, 3 times, 5 times. That should come with an accompanying fine, and a fine that gets larger each time they have their license taken away past the 3rd time. If you want to hit these criminals where it means the most, it's their wallet and their money. If you fine them a large amount for losing their license, not only at the time that they lose it, but also to get it back, you can put that money back into government programs.
Now, the issue I have with that, Mr. Ford, of course, remove their firearm licenses, I'm all for that. But increasing fines over and over again, that leans
That was
more
not
to...
Candidate Ford.
Oh, was it not Candidate Ford? I do apologize. That is my bad. So, the issue present with that is by increasing fines over and over again, that leans more into punishment as opposed to rehabilitation, which is an issue that has already been covered. I agree, remove their licenses, fine them, yes, but do not keep increasing the fine. It only incentivizes them to go back to it.
There, debate chief, I realize that, a lot of us are going to have to be getting home soon with that, cars.
So after this we're going to do our closing statements.
Okay.
I just want to say once again, it's a little disappointing we're getting caught up in arguing the specifics about a certain, hypothetical policy. I think Mr. Keller articulated some incredibly, valid points about life in Los Santos, and I kind of hope we could have reflected on that a little more instead of going back to quibbling about the small notes about
Solve the fucking inequity. Thank you.
I do appreciate all of your answers to the questions, and honestly, it looks like we can maybe even have any smaller debates in the future, and I'd love to see all of you talking about these on all of your social platforms and everything of that nature. And to close out this debate, for as Mr. Sirius has noted, it is going to starting to get pretty stormy. Let's discuss our closing statements. Now, each candidate will have another 30 seconds to do their final closing statement. And we'll start with Mr. Narek.
Hello. This city has no community. We don't have a community. I want to see people get together and develop a city that just feels like a together city, not the split we currently have where people are scared to go down the road. They feel like they're going to get robbed every 20 seconds. If you vote for me, I'll support creating spaces where people can always feel welcome. Events are nice and all, but we want to create permanent spaces and we want to create permanent opportunities where whenever you decide to go out, you have somewhere you can go and just feel welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nash?
All right, 3 things here. PD reform, in the way of, increasing their access to equipment and vehicles. I think that's a big issue for them. And it's also important to me. Increasing medical pay is a really big issue to me. I think that they work so hard and they're overworked. So maybe even adding on like a way for them to train civilians to do like, minor first aid stuff would be excellent. 3rd thing, make red lights into stop signs.
Yes. I'm gonna not tell my comments on that. Mr. Taylor.
Well, first off, I appreciate again the opportunity to be up here with all these fine gentlemen and women. I really, really would like to see improvements for job opportunities out there, increased educational opportunities, and just make sure that this place feels like a community, that we can rely on each other, and that we have an open dialogue that anybody can feel comfortable to go to their state representative to bring up a concern and get the answers they need and that they deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Paxton.
Right. Thank you, everybody. For listening and coming along. you know, like I said, I've been working my whole life, my whole career, helping people, and that's why I'm here. I want to continue to build a better future for our families, your families, and the kids. Obviously, I think we can all agree on this stage. There needs to be some changes. We need to work together, and I'm always willing to work with my colleagues, win or lose, to make the legislative changes that we need. These changes can come from a Bill of Rights, a Fair Employment Act that's going to help workers and business owners. So please join me on this journey. Vote George Paxton so we can seek something better.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Well, I'm not going to make any big promises or noble statements. What I'm going to say is that leadership is work. It is hard work. It requires concentration, dedication, organization, and a lot of it is just deeply unsexy, unappealing stuff to do. I've already been doing the tasks. I've already been working to build something in Los Santos, and I want to expand that upwards and outwards and make it less about reality shows and fun fashion magazines and more about helping you build a better life. And I can't say exactly how I do that. I won't make any promise or tell you that I'll be your best friend. But what I can say is it's been proven I can do the work. You can see the results in Los Santos today. And I'm going to do the work if I make state rep as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bradstop.
Alright, so firstly, you know, you've all heard what I stand for, what I intend to get done. You know, I'm not going to go over that again. What I am going to tack onto that is that there's a lot of bullshit that's happening with our government. There's a lot of people that have lost sight of the fact that it's not the people in charge that are important, it's everyone else, and I intend to rectify that. It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, it doesn't matter where you stand on my policies. If you have an issue, it doesn't matter what it is, I will do my damned hardest to help you in any way I can. And that, I think, is an issue that a lot of, quite frankly, a lot of the people in our government have, you know, fallen into that trap, and I intend to fix it.
Thank you. Mr. Ford.
Hello. So, like I've said before, you know, I hope to provide and strengthen the state of San Andreas and provide everybody, not just government employees, business owners, but criminals, the working class, you know, new people to the city, a voice. And, you know, regardless if you vote for me or vote for someone else, I hope you express your, you know, right to vote. And, you know, if it is a vote for me, then, you know, I appreciate it. And, you know, vote Josh Ford. You know, there's a lot of things that could come out of this that are great. And, you know, I hope to push legislation to better and, you know, enforce a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sirius.
Yes, since everybody did not grown up in their manners anymore, thank you, Mr. Debate Lady, for putting this all together and having us here tonight. And thank you to law enforcement, except for the ones that let our stuff get breaking into. Thank you for keeping us safe. And thank you to Publix for setting this up. Vote for me or don't vote for me. I don't really care. And Kelly Fox or something of the sort. I believe I'm supposed to say that with a # on my Twitter. But anyway, you all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sirius. Mr. Keller.
Fuck brains. I'm gonna be loud because it's rainy as fuck right now. But I need you to hear me. Hear me more than you've heard me this fucking debate. Alright? Some of you love me. More of you know me. And even more of you know after this debate that I'm not afraid to break what needs broken and build what fucking needs built. So if you believe in true fucking change, angry reform, and fucking comprehensive fixes, fucking vote Cash. Because Cash Keller not only fucks, but fucks the system, invades the system, and builds a system that we fucking need and can respect once again.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler.
Cash Keller Fox. I'm not going to take anyone's time. We all got to get home. Smaller government, trust and transparency, criminal reform. Thank you, guys. Get home safe.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you very much for attending. I apologize for running a little too close to the storm. Please be safe and have a great night.
Also, thanks Phoenix and thanks Cherry.
Mr. Wheeler,
Thank you.
how do you plan on increasing paychecks to EMTs for the citizens of New Alexandria?
Really?
All right, later on.
Bye.
Excuse me.